What we're about to talk about changes everything. Yes, this is a news video. There is some pretty significant news in here that I don't know if people understand how significant it is, or at least maybe they do, and it's just not getting the attention it deserves. Because you see, there's a huge narrative around Switch 2. There's a huge narrative around its potential future and how irrelevant it might become when PlayStation 6 comes to the market, supposedly with its own handheld. We have the Xbox handheld coming up as well. And there's a lot of conversations going on, a lot of thought processes that are basically dismissing the capabilities of the Nintendo Switch 2. And despite some really good efforts from things like Star Wars Outlaws and Cyberpunk 2077 and even Final Fantasy VII, which is running really, really smoothly, there still is this sentiment that the Switch 2 just isn't good enough. And after what we now have discovered coming right out of Tokyo Game Show, I truly mean it when I say this changes everything, because people use that title a lot. Hell, I've used it in the past, and you'll watch the video and you'll wonder, this doesn't change anything. Well, I think you're going to change your mind with this one. Before we dive into what the hell is going on, because this is really shocking me right now. Look, we got a couple giveaways going on. We're giving away 3 copies of Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2. We're also giving away 5 copies of Kirby Air Riders. You can enter in 2 separate links down in the description or pinned comment. But I want to go ahead and just dive right into this. And we're talking about a major third-party game, day and date across all platforms. Switch 2, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. That game is Resident Evil Requiem. Now look, here's some gameplay footage, and credit to the people getting these recordings in, because this is how we discovered all of this. Now, I want to be very clear. Yes, the game obviously looks impressive on Switch 2. It looks really, really good. We talked about this the other day, how good the game looks, and really the one part that doesn't look fantastic is the hair, but everything else looks really good. And if you're playing in first-person mode, you don't even have to see the hair. If you're playing in third-person mode, then you will. Obviously, you'll see hair on other characters eventually in the game as well. So I get it. The hair might really be a sticking point for some people, but there's one thing this game is doing, and this thing is something that I truly believe changes everything. People have now taken this footage, broken it down, and began counting frames. Now that the game already looks smooth, people were thinking, well, maybe hit 40 FPS. I'm not so sure you'd be able to even see that between 30 and 40 through a video. At least not without a frame rate counter on the screen, right? No, the game's running at 60 in handheld mode. At 1080p, probably being upscaled from 560, 480, whatever upscaling resolution they're using DLSS. 60 FPS. That means it's probably 60 FPS on docked mode as well. Now, what resolution it gets to in docked mode, all that's obviously up for debate. Direct feed footage and all that doesn't exist right now. We only have handheld footage, but I gotta say, 60 FPS in Resident Evil 9, a modern game only made for current platforms, not prior ones. A game using a very powerful game engine, granted the RE engine, which does have games on Switch. This is impressive. And this is impressive for multiple reasons. And the chief reason being that it shows that, while yes, we've had some impressiveness from third parties before, they were just targeting 30 FPS, and I guess in the case of Cyberpunk, there's a mode that pushes it to 40, but doesn't really play much better than the 30 FPS mode, so not so sure it's worth it. I have to say, this is what changes everything. Because to this point, we had kind of just said, look, we're going to get third-party ports, but outside of like things like fighting games, we're not going to get 60 FPS. We're only going to get 30 at best. Games probably running, below that at times, like Cyberpunk does. And, this is just a state of third party moving forward, much the same as third party was on Switch, where third party, it would be 30 FPS, but it would be a really rough 30 FPS and a bad resolution. And well, obviously the visuals have taken a huge leap on Switch 2 with third party games comparative to Switch 1. Still, there are times that it looks significantly worse than other platforms. And in the case where it doesn't, say Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate, probably Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, etc., yeah, it runs smoothly at 30 FPS, and yes, it looks really good, but it's still, you don't have that 60 FPS experience, not even as an option. Hell, Yooka-Laylee, who they just didn't have the dev kit long enough, according to them, they're launching on Switch 2 at only 30 FPS with a likely 60 FPS mode to come later. But we're talking about obviously Resident Evil Requiem because that's what's been on screen this whole time. And whether or not you think the game looks pretty, I have no idea. Whether or not you even like Resident Evil doesn't really matter. The fact is, this is a AAA multi-platform game made only for modern consoles, and it's 60 FPS and looking pretty damn good in handheld mode on Nintendo Switch 2. I want that to sink in. Because this game might not even be able to hit 60 FPS on Steam Deck. We don't know. Obviously, there's no testing of that right now. But what we do know is this game looks really good on Switch 2. It also supposedly looks really good on the ROG Xbox Ally as well, which isn't surprising. That's also a more powerful system than a Steam Deck, but also a lot more expensive. We've seen the price tags of $600 and $1,000. I know. Let's just keep this on Nintendo, though, okay? This, to me, is really interesting. 60 FPS in a AAA game, I know this shouldn't be a big deal. I get it. It really should not be. We shouldn't even be having a conversation about this. But we are because it happened and it hasn't been happening. We have not gotten consistent 60 FPS from third-party games. Oh, WWE 2K25 hits 60 FPS, but that game was ported by Shiver Entertainment. And if you didn't know, Nintendo owns Shiver Entertainment. That is Nintendo's own personal third-party port studio. They bought them. Nintendo bought them. So the people at Shiver Entertainment are going to be the absolute pinnacle of being able to port games over to Switch 2. Obviously, most third-party games are not going to be able to use Shiver Entertainment for their port. They can only handle so many games at once, maybe 2 or 3 games per year at best, and that might even be stretching it no matter how big they make the team there. Porting takes time, and it's not easy, and even for those experts, yeah, 2K25, WWE, looks and runs amazing, but Shiver Entertainment didn't port Resident Evil 9. Resident Evil 9 is being ported internally, according to interviews by Capcom themselves. This is important because it shows that, one, Capcom's probably had the Switch 2 dev kit longer than most, let's be clear, definitely longer than the folks over at, the Yooka Replay devs and stuff like that, right? They obviously they've had it longer than that. And Capcom, by the way, is probably one of the studios that gets dev kits fairly early. If you think about it, some of their comments actually increased RAM on the Nintendo Switch back in the day. At least that's what's being reported. Obviously, we'll never be able to verify that story 100%. So, yeah, Capcom's one of Nintendo's major partners. So, yes, they've probably had the dev kits for a long time. But it's not just that they had the dev kits for a long time. It's how good the game looks with how it's running. We talked in the past how all that needed to happen for Switch 2 to not have to worry about PlayStation 6, to be able to be up there and be a viable platform for 5, 6, 7, 8 years was be good enough. And good enough, we were starting to think, was just, hey, it kind of looks the same as the other versions, but it runs at 30 FPS. Certain games look exactly the same, but it runs at 30 FPS. Now we're seeing what a company can do when they fully optimize the game. They've had the dev kits long enough to do so, and we see the end result. The end result is not only a damn looking, actually downright impressive looking version of the game outside of, obviously, the hair, but we're also seeing one running at a smooth, consistent 60 FPS throughout. Now, this is just a demo, and there's still 5 months for this game till it comes out. Probably, realistically, 4 months for it to cook before it starts getting, physical copies start getting printed and made and all that stuff. And yeah, it's probably a game key card, and that's going to upset people. That's fine. I get that. But the point is, what it's showing is possible on Switch 2 if you properly optimize. And I get it. RE Engine is not the UE5 engine. It's not any other game engine out there that people might be using. But what it does show is that if you actually take the time and you work with Switch 2 long enough, what's going to be happening? We've talked about this before, how what we're seeing with third parties right now, this is just the beginning. These guys haven't had the dev kits very long. None of these games were made for the ground up, considering the Switch 2. And yeah, that's technically true of RE9 as well. It probably began development long before they had Switch 2 dev kits, but they've clearly had them long enough to include them in the development pipeline to get a day-and-date release, and get a day-and-date release that's already 5 months away, running as well as the other versions. To be clear, the other versions of this game are only running at 60 FPS. And what I love about this is it means the developers at Capcom did not view 60 FPS for this particular game on Switch 2 as optional. No. They said, we're going to do it, and it has the power to do it with our game still looking mostly the same as other versions. And I say mostly the same because I obviously know it looks better on PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 5 Pro and PC and all that. I've seen the demos. I played the damn demo. I know it looks better. That's not the point. What did I say? It has to look and run good enough. Good enough is 60 FPS. Good enough is visual quality that most people aren't going to care about as long as the gameplay quality is the same. And this is one of the very first third-party games, major AAA day-and-date game to come out, because, well, we haven't had a lot of day-and-date AAA games, and actually, just like WWE 2K25, be so good that no one's going to feel like they're buying a massively inferior version of the game. And the game's cheaper on Nintendo Switch 2. That's the crazy thing. We thought, oh, it's cheaper because it's half the frame rate or something. No, it's just cheaper on Switch 2. Why? If I had to guess, when they have business meetings about the price points of the game, the only thing I could think of is they know the Switch 2 install base will be smaller than the other platforms. And so to encourage extra sales on that platform, why not release it for, $10 cheaper than the other versions? It's the only thing I can really think of as like a tactic to like, hey, if it's 70 everywhere, why not buy it? If you're a multi-platform gamer, you just buy it for the best platform. But if it's $10 cheaper and you can take it with you and play it anywhere and there's cross saves, I have no idea if there is. Hey, maybe we do that. Maybe we put it here. So far, we have not heard of any cut features. So far, we have not heard of anything other than, yeah, obviously it's being upscaled. Obviously, it's running at lower resolutions, and now obviously it's running at 60 FPS. All sacrifices that via DLSS are making a lot of it not as noticeable, again, besides the hair. And I think this is ultimately the right decision, and I think this means a lot for the potential of third-party games moving forward, because obviously we know what Shiver Studios can do, right? Shiver Entertainment, they work for Nintendo. They're the absolute pros at this. Capcom is now showing, hey, we can do it with this. This starts to make you think about other games that maybe just weren't optimized as much, even from Capcom. Think about Monster Hunter Wilds. It's had performance issues on everything and arguably never really got that full optimization. Now I'm starting to think, man, if they actually fully optimize the game, could this game indeed run on Nintendo Switch 2? Even at 30 FPS? Hell, should we rule out 60? It's the same engine. Should we rule it out? Maybe they just didn't take enough time to optimize the game. Maybe they rushed the game out. Maybe they pulled a Ubisoft and just put it out there before the game was actually fully done from an optimization point. I don't know. Again, the game still is having problems on other platforms. Still hasn't gotten all those optimization updates. So I can't definitively say that, and I can't say it's ever going to run well anywhere. Beats the hell out of me, right? I don't pay enough attention to Monster Hunter Wilds. So you guys can let me know, those that are playing it, if it's actually gotten better with patch updates and stuff. But I do have to note that this to me is a big deal. This is what leads us to believe that third-party games can and will run on this platform and can and run well. Now, look, does this mean I expect GTA 6 to come to Switch 2 and run at 60 FPS? No. I mean, it's running at 30 already on things like PlayStation 5 and Series S and all that. So, no, if it does come, it's going to be 30 FPS because that's what it is on all the systems. But that's not the point. The point is, this game proves high-quality AAA ports at 60 FPS. Yeah, Switch 2 can handle that. And we've been waiting for a game to prove it. We always thought, at least I did, that game was going to come in year 2, year 3. Hell, before we even get to the end of year 1, already this upcoming February, we have a game 5 months away from a demo already proving that this is all possible. So, shout out to Capcom, of course, for what looks like an excellent port of Resident Evil Requiem. And shout out to all the people obviously recording the footage and putting the demo stuff out there for all of us to find this information out. And thanks to the people who took the time to do all the frame counting. There's been too many people that have done it now. I've seen so many people and so many analysis. Like, there's been so many people that have done it. I don't even know who to credit as like the first person to discover it, but it doesn't matter. What matters is the end result. And as this changes everything. Told you I meant it. Catch you guys in the next video.